happens with leaders, too many people, I think, get into business, Leo, to do less work. That's their picture of it. I mean, you look at what you're doing the activities today that you did as a team leader. And then I watched people fail. I watched people struggle.
We expect leadership to look strong, confident, in control, but what if the truth is a lot messier than that? This isn't about doing less, it's about becoming more when everything around you tells you to step back. For Jon, it wasn't about hitting numbers, it was survival. It was showing up, not for optics, but for family. Real leadership means owning every outcome, especially the ones you'd rather blame on someone else. The boring stuff, the stuff that doesn't get applause. That's the work that builds legacy. You think you're in control until the people you're leading start running the show. Your job isn't to be the best, it's to create people who surpass you.
What is the one lie that you see leaders tell themselves when growth stalls or they have a hiccup?
That it's the agent's fault, the biggest lie. They actually aren't doing the daily core fundamental activities they need to do to transfer your skill sets and your knowledge down to your people so that they push you up and they become better than you.
Behind every great leader is someone fighting battles you can't see and showing up anyway. You don't get to lead and disappear. You don't get the title without the weight. Leadership isn't just business, it's therapy. And until you confront your past, you're just building on shaky ground.
80-90% of leaders are hostages to their agents. Leadership is a privilege. You have a responsibility, and not just for those people. They've put you there to watch, so don't be a hypocrite. If I don't show up every single day, I'm a fraud.
Jon, welcome to Pareja Unfiltered. I love having raw and honest conversations, which is the way you and I always operate. I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years. I was a practitioner and I never had the pleasure of you coaching me as an agent, but I do call you a coach now. And you get to coach some of the most productive team leaders, executives, right? Not just in real estate. I want to start at the beginning though. Like you're known as this radically accountable leader, data-driven, really good on social. But let's start at the beginning for the folks that don't know you. Because what I always respect about you is you actually did this, right? Yeah. Like this is not something you just decided to do and said, look at me, I know what I'm doing. Like you and I have a very similar origin story. So let's start wherever you want to kick it off.
Sure, I was a bouncer in a teen nightclub in downtown Seattle. I was the bouncer, I was the janitor, and then I would drive under the Space Needle over to a seafood warehouse and fill the orders and drive the truck. I was working about 110 hours a week, and after I got guns pulled on me by gang members, literally in downtown Seattle, my mom said work half as hard and sell real estate. So she sent me to a Tommy Hopkins seminar. Don't claim you know what that is, Leo. I'm going to age you.
Not only do I know what that is, I can do the 52 card trick, and by the way, under success, we own all the rights to this content.
Oh, so no way.
Remember that? We should talk about that later.
Oh, man.
So I could do the 52 card role play right now.
You got them dialed. Oh, God. So I was dumb enough and today smart enough to just go knock doors and ask people if they wanted to move. And so door to door and built this will be really, really good. Sold 100 homes in a year as an individual agent. And
First year, second year, third year?
It was my third year. And my sales volume was 6.75 million. My average price was 67.5. I could remember when I double-ended something for 67.5. I was like, I'm rich. And then they went and bought something for 100 grand. I mean, like, hello. So I did that, but continued to do that. And then my daughter's health situation in those first couple of years of my career, we actually did a geographic. I was just, it was overwhelming us, and we were in the Pacific Northwest, and let's go somewhere sunny. And I think people always pull that geographic. Went to Vegas, and then immediately I went into the Vegas marketplace, July, August, immediately door knock, cold call. And then I watched people fail. I watched people struggle. And I imagined what it would be like for me to fail, considering my daughter's health situation, just not just paying bills, but just life. And I started helping people. I went to the branch manager and said, hey, you've got all these people over here that are zeros. Pay me 50% of the dollars I generate in their first 6 months in the business. And then some good old boys, I did it, went well, took them door knocking. It was out of volunteerism, and I knew it would make me better. Anyways, long story short, the Mansells out of Utah, who had won the PHH Cup back when it was that. They did a startup down in Vegas, and I did a startup with them. Mark Stark with Americana Group, Better Homes and Gardens, and those guys came after me after 2 years, led a branch to 14, took it from 1,000 closings to 1483 closings. In my first year in the market was only up 13%. Did it one way and one way only, by recruiting. Did that for a couple of years, and then Ed Kraftchow and Dave Cobo from Prucal, Nevada, Texas brought me in as a GM. So I went from 100 agents to 100 offices. We had about 30-ish company-owned stores, and then about 70 trademark license companies. And so did that for a couple of years, and then a consultant came in, and I'm just going to ride around with you. Well, how come? He's a legacy consultant. He says, because no one's done what you're doing. Like, don't ever count someone else's money, but I saw we were paying this person. And so I went out and decided to do the coaching thing. And that was in '02. And just continued to, it was just like being a startup agent, a brand new agent, going into rooms where there were 1, 2. Yeah. And so I just stayed focused on one thing. And I think that's the most important thing as you look at the most successful people in your organization today. They are singularly focused, well, until mastery, and then they start expanding out. So many people try and do all kinds of things, but I stayed right in the recruiting lane, which then attracted naturally people that wanted to recruit, but then they started to see, there's a depth beyond the recruiting. You were an operator. And so today I get to interact with high-level leaders across all different brands and models and support the growth of their business.
So you're known for radical accountability with some of the most highest performers.
Yeah.
What is the one lie that you see leaders tell themselves when growth stalls or they have a hiccup?
That it's the agent's fault. It's the biggest lie. And actually the absolute truth is their unwillingness to do the hard they expect their agents to do every single time. Because it doesn't matter what happens with leaders. Too many people, I think, get into business, Leo, to do less work. That's their picture of it. I mean, you look at what you're doing. You're doing the activities today that you did as a team leader.
Just a bigger team.
Yeah, you're not hiding out in Wall Street, and you are engaged at the level that you need to be as a CEO of a publicly traded company. But what you do on a daily basis is you model the daily core fundamentals that drive a business, and they never ever go away. So I think it's the lie that it's the agent's fault, and the truth that they actually aren't doing the daily core fundamental activities they need to do. That's it. Simple.
And I see a lot of teams. So first of all, I talk a lot about, I think teams are not for everybody, right? I say teams, the creation of a team should be the byproduct of excess lead gen.
Correct.
Like, I feel like most teams are social clubs.
Yeah.
And again, this goes for any entrepreneur, right? Like, you want to start hiring people, but it's like, I don't care what business we're in, real estate, lending, products, services, technology. There should be an excess of lead gen, top of the funnel, which you're masterful at, to conversion, consumer acquisition cost,
Correct.
retention, conversion, then lifetime value.
Correct.
When you see teams that scale well, what do they do well on the retention side versus the burnout that happens in any business where you're managing humans?
Well, I think on the retention side, the one thing I do is you treat everyone fairly, but not equal. That's the critical piece.
Expand on that.
Sure. I'm going to be fair with everyone. And fair across the board is here's what the expectation is. And if you don't meet it, well, then you're not going to be treated equally, if you will. So the person that is doing the daily activities, not just the activities of the mistake that leaders make, they'll get too sprung on the activities and the production while they have someone poisoning their environment. And that's a bigger problem than having a whole bunch of bottom producers when you look at it in the end, because what happens is that thing will totally wind. You've watched people implode over and over and over again. So I think it's being crystal clear on what your standards are and being willing to lead people differently according to what they do to support the overall vision and mission of the organization. Really simple.
I hear you say leaders go first. And when things are good, it's easy. what happened? Like the macro's changing super fast, and for context, we're recording this in 2025, middle of the year. Tariffs are hitting. There's going to be pain on Main Street. Every public traded company who I just heard their earnings call is revising their forecast down for the latter half of the year. What does that look like for a leader right now?
It looks one of two ways. I don't think there's a middle ground. It's going to be really, really, really good for the few, and it's going to be, just for contrast, really, really bad. And I wouldn't call it bad, bad meaning, compared to, hey, I had this team and we were making some money. Like, this whole idea of a team is history. It's gone. What am I going to do? Am I going to go back to being an individual agent, or am I going to roll in? Fortunately or unfortunately, the bigger brand that over delivers, that builds deep relationships with their agents and with the consumer, is going to beat everyone. I don't care what technology comes into play, period. That's who's going to win. And what's going to happen is those people that were a team that maybe were propped up on a market, they're going to either roll into these teams, or they're going to go back and be an individual agent. And we're seeing it happen left and right. We're talking about this morning with your two number ones, your number one Canada team and your number one USA team, Parker and Justin. I mean, you guys constantly have team leaders approaching them, not just to come into the downline. I'm talking about just rolling into their organizations.
And for someone who probably needs to make that decision, how do you talk them through that? Right, because I think there's probably a lot of ego caught up in that.
Huge. You have to have a level of in leadership, and same with you. I mean, you do this really, really well. You've got to have that business intimacy where someone's really willing to, take you behind the curtain of where things are at financially. And a lot of real estate agents aren't. They've always chased the top line number. So it's having that raw and real conversation where I go behind the scenes and say, okay, here's where the financial situation is. Okay, great. How is that impacting the rest of your life? What is your risk tolerance? I'll visit people with risk tolerance. I've got a great level of risk tolerance. Okay, good. So, but let's look at the activities that you have done and have not done, and the activities are going to be required. Are you willing to do that? And so I think another big part of that conversation too, and I'm sure you've seen it, is the willingness to come back into sales too, because many of them, I'd say a bigger percentage of them, need to be in sales, period.
And from what angle? So for example, when I was running a team, I stayed in sales the entire time from the lead gen side, right? Like, I may have not going on the belly-to-belly appointment, but like, even in my last year, 90% of the business came from the corporate B2B relationships I've set up, whether it was hedge funds, developers, builders. And I was still going to dinner. Like, Ariana and I were hosting them at our house and making dinner, because we found that was so intimate of
so smart
time and energy and money, right? It's like we could pick up the bill at an expensive restaurant, but like Ariana and I would set the table and invite them with their spouse and make them dinner, a couple times a year, because to me it was like we gave them our time and our attention in the most intimate way possible.
Nothing stronger than that. There's nothing stronger. I think that it's very interesting. It's across the board. I think determining, I'm sitting here thinking, most of the people that are at the 400, 500 transaction amount, they need to be full blown in sales in this type of marketplace. But then I back up and I say, wait a minute though. Then it comes back to who's the real good operator. Well, the real good operator that, has their arms around their cost of goods sold. They're actually running a for-profit business for themselves.
That's the number one problem I see, cost of goods sold.
Every time. First thing. And so, to pick a transaction count, that was going to be my first answer, but it's really, really not. It depends on how you operated your business, the back end part of it. Were you just bringing people in and chasing top line, and you were able to get away with volume because you were propped up by a marketplace? And that's where a lot of them are stuck. And so I think the most important thing that I share with people right now is go to the money, so that your organization is healthy. And there's this other part though that's very interesting, because I think whether you did it consciously or unconsciously, and I'm sure a little bit of both, and you and I know this, you can tell people what to do, you can teach them, or you can show them.
Yeah.
And we know what wins, and it's happening right now, is the leader that's out there showing, they're having this experience, Leo, of, oh my gosh, my agent's activity is lifting up. Yes, because there's this psychology in leadership of you're asking me to do hard and you're sitting back there, not doing the hard. So I think it's a case-by-case situation based on people's personal financial situation, their risk tolerance, all those different things come into play.
So in leadership, what is a behavior that you think people confuse as a strength, but it's actually a weakness?
I think it's having all the answers. And it's kind of interesting is we'll go into your top teams and top agents mastermind today. I'm walking in with the best questions, period. I think it's getting so caught up in what am I going to tell them, what am I going to tell them, what am I going to tell them, versus what are the thought-provoking questions I can ask on a daily basis. Because self-discovery is the number one way to get a human being to make a choice, make a change, or move into productivity. And so it's this need to validate themselves, this need to be the smartest, and this need to, it's almost like, here's their weakness. It's called entertainment leadership versus true leadership. And entertainment leadership is the leader that's trying to sound good, look good, play the part. And they think it's by all the knowledge they have, and that's not it. It's not it. It's who can ask the right questions of people to get them to self-discover and act based on those questions.
I've seen you scale people's teams, and through your story, we just heard you scale large organizations. What's the most underrated operational move or tactic a team leader could have to drive production in an organization?
Recruiting, period. And
what does it stand for right here?
Keep freaking recruiting. And I think that, but there's so much depth in it though too, because there's not just, well, that's natural. Yes, John, you bring on more agents, they bring you in production, and so yeah, but it goes deeper than that. Real estate is very much, we have a lifestyle entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is if you look at the bulk of the agents is they sell 4 homes this month, they're gone to Belize, they're rich the next month. It's not like you can count on they hit that number, that's the new standard, they're going to do 4. I mean, leaders have had to figure that one out. That's number one. Number two, companies and teams, organizations don't grow from the top down. They grow from the bottom up. And bottom up is based on, the reason there's cliches is because they're true. They say that comparison is the thief of joy. Well, okay, that's one part of it. The other part of it is comparison can inspire people to take action. So, when you look at the depth of the recruiting, yes, you bring bodies in, they're going to add production and retained company dollar. And typically when you bring recruits in, because most are bringing in newer agents, so the cost of goods sold favors that team leader. But what it does that's most important is it moves the leader to a position of power. It moves the leader to the position of being on offense. Because right now, 80-90% of leaders are hostages to their agents. They can't hold them to a standard because the agent can look over their shoulder and say, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So recruiting is the number one driver. It is because if you take a look in our industry too, you look, like it was 30% attrition. If you look across the board at the top teams in North America, 30% attrition has been standard, even in brokerages too, that 30% number. I'm telling you what, right now with the last couple of years, it's been closer to 50%.
Yeah.
Right?
You're telling me.
Yeah, right? So there's a couple things. You've got to take care of that natural attrition. Because I would say to someone, Leo, you got 100 agents. Yep, 100. You need to recruit? No. We're going to get 20% more out of people. Well, Leo, let's do some math on empirical data. So at the end of the year, you'll have 70. Then the next year, you'll have 50. Then the next year, you'll have 35 agents. Natural attrition. I mean, we know there's anomalies out there, but that's what's going to happen.
Statistically correct.
Right. I mean, it's simple math. So it is constantly inspiring your agents, your existing agents. It is also replacing the agents that are going to move on. Because the other part, and a lot of people, I don't know if many have checked this, the average lifespan of an agent on a team, whether you let them go or they leave, whatever, is about 3.5 years. You've got 3.5 years.
That feels exactly mathematically right to me.
Right? Yeah, so that's great. We've got that. Listen, and we've got them a season, a reason. Hopefully, we impact them for a lifetime because typically they're not going to be with us for a lifetime. So
You focus heavily on human behavior.
I do.
What is a predictable emotion that surfaces before an agent starts to plateau? I'm sure you can almost telegraph it now.
Yeah, abandonment. They abandon. They don't show up anymore. That's the big one. You can predict it when they stop showing up for the sales meeting. They stop showing up for training.
And that's the leader.
You mean for the leader?
Yeah.
Say that again now.
You talk about human behavior a lot. What is a trait that you see pop up in leaders right before they plateau, right? Like, is it overconfidence? Is it because you can I'm assuming you can probably see it before it happens. And you're like, oh shit! In 6 months we're gonna be in a situation.
Yeah, their vacation schedule does it every time. Their vacation schedule, travel schedule shows me every single time. And it is, then what happens, and they're going to be relying on someone else to do it. The bottom line is, sure, we need to constantly be replacing ourselves. You look at, as you came into the organization, your job every single day is to replace yourself. And the way you replace yourself, Leo, is to transfer your skill sets and your knowledge down to your people so that they push you up and they become better than you. What these leaders do is they put someone in place and they're gone. They just start. It's vacation time. It's their leisure time. It is travel time. They become event specialists. In other words, lobbycon. That is the simplest thing. I go, oh, here we go every single time. There's that one, but then there's also the ones that have not hit mastery. Brandon Brittingham hit mastery, and so Brandon Brittingham then started doing other things. The mistake most make is they don't hit mastery, they don't put the right leaders in place, they don't stay engaged at a level, and then all of a sudden the whole thing just unwinds.
Define mastery from your vantage point.
Yes, mastery for me is being able to have the operation run. You look at your operation and everything can run at 80% of what you would expect it to be. That's my simple piece where I look at it. It's also the ability for me to transfer the most critical skill sets to people and get them to be able to operate at 80% of my capability within 90 days. In its simplest of form. It's what we do with ISA VAs that are doing recruiting calls. It's what our ISA coaches do with the ISA VAs that they bring in. The ability to take someone that's, hungry, humble, and willing, of course, to transfer that skill set over to them so that then the organization runs at what? Because, team leaders are unreasonable, okay? You are too, probably. We both are. But and all we work with, we're unreasonable, but we understand that every high performer is the ability to get people to run at 80% of your capacity. And if you can't develop people up to that level, then what's happening is you've not mastered it, number one, but number two, you probably have something deep within you that has fear, and so you're running a hero minion organization.
What is, whether someone's coached by you or not coached by you, I talk a lot about having authentic conversations with yourself and figuring out how you're wired and trying to find those wounds that cause that hero behavior. Yeah. How do you teach someone, like even if they don't know either of us and they're just watching this on YouTube, how do you teach them how to go through that process?
First thing that I share with people is that you've got to approach everything with curiosity, not judgment. Number one. Number two, you've got to carry a principle of personal responsibility. You must own every outcome of yours. Any outcome that you're experiencing that you don't own, you can't change. Number three is to know that what you're sitting in is a classroom, and it's a classroom to teach you and take you to the next level, or it's a classroom to take you back to things that you have not resolved. One of the biggest ones that I see is abandonment stuff. Everyone's got levels of abandonment, whether it's a death, it is a divorce, it's relationships. And so what happens, where does that carry over with the team leader? The team leader will a lot of times self-destruct relationships if they see it coming that way. Or the team leader will choose, because our experiences of our past, especially with our parents, are the modeling for love. And unfortunately, if we were raised with some traumatic experiences, then that is our toxic mimic for love. And then they bring that into their leadership, and then they start attracting people that are like that, and it's unhealthy. So it's going back to and getting people to look at their, I think every single leader, I know that every leader in your organization I've worked with, I give them a book called The Shadow Effect with Debbie Ford. And it talks about the contrast in our lives, and looking at the dramas and the traumas of our past and facing them and seeing how they show up in our businesses. And I will tell you, every leader that goes deeper within their personal development, I can share with you, their businesses are and continue to grow at the level of their personal development and their emotional maturity. So it's what is it in my past that's showing up today, and then encountering and doing that work alongside. Because here's what happens, Leo. I think that they're transactional, but then what happens is all this business comes in. Okay, great. You've got more people. Now you've got to become people-based, and now you're moving people that move the money. But until you can move yourself and get past that ceiling of the things that are stopping you that are deep within, it's not going to happen. The big one's personal responsibility.
I hear a lot of people talk about abundance, and I hear you talk about consequences. How is that different, and why is that so important right now?
Well, when I look at abundance, it's used loosely, and what happens is I look at life and business as a river, and everything that we're all experiencing is a result of what's upstream. I'm here as a result of what's upstream. You're as a result, but we're a part of that vessel that flows. And if we stop that, it's going to stop for us. And so the abundance piece comes in to play with, to keep what we have and must give it away. It's just it's a life principle. I think the people that they talk about it, but why they don't do it is we've been taught so much about competition instead of co-opetition. And we look at anyone that's doing what we're doing as someone that's going to take something away from us, instead of us seeing that they're actually someone that can add to us. I'll give you a great example. Spring who certainly has a coaching business too, and a great downline and a great team. I mean, an example of a great entrepreneur. I was running something towards my audience in coaching, and she said, "Hey, what should I do?" I said, "The exact same thing as me." What? I said, "The exact same thing as me." How come? What are you talking about? I said, "Well, because the people that want to work with me maybe don't want to work with you, or vice versa." And here's our whole objective. Our whole objective is to serve the greater good. And if we go out serving the greater good, you just got to trust in the process. Consequences, your consequences from, when I look at consequences, looking at the contrast of abundance in that, is that it's like putting a stop sign to the flow of everything. When you become scarce, what happens is abundance widens your funnel. Scarcity closes that funnel down, and the big consequence that people look at is they'll get so into strategy and tactic, and strategy and tactic's only going to carry you so far. Philosophy and principle and values take you to the moon. Really simple. And the consequence is this: you will go back to not owning a business, you will go back to having a job, period. Because no one can go at this thing alone. No one is self-made. And what happens with that scarcity is you're going to also operate in fear. And there's only two emotions, love or fear. Love is abundance.
I've seen you, and I know the stories where you've helped build culture at scale, right? Mm-hmm. Culture's, I think, easier and smaller. It's much harder to scale. Mm-hmm. What's an invisible system behind culture that most people miss?
I don't know that it's invisible. It is the most powerful thing is the random text message or video text from a leader. Period. End of
that resonates
discussion.
For me.
Period. And it is, I don't want to hear about, because a lot of times I go, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm working on this." No. How are you? How are your kids? There is nothing more powerful than random reach outs Justin Haver, you're number one guy in Canada. We were just talking about this 2 weeks ago, talking about how, and what I believe is that the way we lead our agents mirrors the consumer's needs. So there was a time the consumer was fast. We had to be fast with everything was speed. Today, we're in depth. We are depth of relationship. It's over deliver. It requires more interaction. And so what's beautiful is what the consumer expects, that behavior, well, that's how you have to lead, because then you're modeling that with your agents. So right now, the leaders that are going deeper, the number one thing is the random text message reach out is undefeated. Undefeated. Undefeated to drive production, and not even talking about production. So, because emotion creates motion. And when we create a deeper emotional connection, like you and I have a business relationship, a transactional business relationship, but then over time we've built this friendship, and you spend time, and our wives meet each other just for a moment out there. And consciously or unconsciously, as a relationship gets deeper with someone, it's not about the numbers, it's about this mutual respect and this mutual accountability. And so I liken it to the relationship that leaders have with their agents, man.
And I've heard you say this, you don't have a choice because you're the insurance.
Yeah.
You're the safety net, you're everything. Talk about that.
I think we look at what's hard and what we call hard, and what we take so serious. And really, what's serious is why we're doing this, not what we do. And so when we can really connect it to why we're doing this, we know in our friendship and relationship, I have a child with a health situation, and so if I don't show up every single day with integrity meaning doing what I say I'm going to do, performing at the highest level, what I'm doing is I'm a fraud. And I even teased a couple of folks, I won't say their names, but they're friends of ours in your organization. How come I'm not doing this? I need to get back on this, and don't tell me just to do it. And I said, okay, I'm gonna tell you this. Stop being a hypocrite. Leadership is a privilege. Leadership is a privilege. You have a responsibility, and not just for those people. They've put you there to watch, so don't be a hypocrite. Boom, it hit. And then also too, in your personal life, what are the promises? We're doing this to deliver on the promises to the people in our community that really, really matter. That's why we're doing this. And so, in my case, it comes back to personal responsibility, that principle. No matter what, I was driving across the causeway. I'm still figuring things out in Louisiana. And I was on the phone with Lexi for about 45 minutes to an hour going to the New Orleans airport last night before I got here. And I'm able to have a conversation with Stanford Medical Center and my daughter, going outside of insurance and not thinking about it. And I think that's being insurance. And that's keeping our promises and doing what we're here to really do, is love and support our family, our friends, and the people around us. And so, it makes it really, really easy to do what we may think is hard. And so really connect into that. And I'll tell you what, when you encounter things that are hard, but you've done the hard, it makes it, you look forward to the hard. You really, really do. So.
Well, Jon, it's been an absolute pleasure. As always, I cherish the time we get to spend together, and thank you for sharing all these words.
Yeah, thank you, bud.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.